So what's the agenda for today? Yeah. So what we are going to discuss is the expert insights on ISSAP, the materials which we can refer, and peace of mind offer, expert insights on ISSAP. So what is an ISSAP? ISSAP is a CISSP concentration, which is basically focused on designing the security solutions and providing a risk-based guidance to meet organizational needs. It is very much ideal for security architect consultants, senior engineers whose goal is to design and analyze the security solutions. Okay, so now what are the architectural frameworks? But before I move to the architectural frameworks, okay, before I move to the architectural framework, what I would like to discuss over here is when we say ISSAP, Information System Security Architect Professional. So first thing which you need to understand is that if you guys are planning to go for an ISSAP certification program, then it is recommended that you must have a CISSP background. Okay, so you must be a CISSP certified. Now, are you trying to say that without CISSP, we can't go for the ISSAP certification? Well, that's not what I am saying. Earlier, if you want to go for an ISSAP certification, you must be having a CISSP certification. But now IC Square has removed that criteria. So you can still, without CISSP, you can directly go for ISSAP, which is your CISSP concentration. If you think that you are well versed with the concepts of CISSP and you think that you are already working as a security architect or as a GRC, you are already working in the GRC career, you are already working as a security architect, and you think that you can go for the certification, then you can go. But generally, our recommendation is anyone who wants to go for the ISSAP certification, it's better that they have a CISSP along with CCSP, because in the ISSAP, you basically, the concepts of CISSP, CCSP is still testable in the exam. So now what should be the thought process? So now when we are talking about the thought process, in CISSP, you must have heard about that you have to think like a manager, right? In CCSP also, we basically go with the same mindset. Think like a manager, think like a manager. But here in ISSAP, thinking like a manager approach, is it going to work? Well, the answer is partially yes and no. For management oriented questions, you can think like a manager, but ISSAP is a bit more technical certification. So you need to think as a security architect. So in the CISSP, you need to have an in the CISSP, you must be understanding the terminologies like firewall, DLP, DRM, IDS, IPS, digital rights management, information right management, right? But in the ISSAP, which is your Information System Security Architect Professional, what they test you is the placement of the controls. Okay, which is the best place? So mostly you will be getting a scenario based question where they will give you a scenario and they will ask you that according to this scenario, where the control, which is the most cost effective, or where we are going to get the maximum ROI or return of investment. So in which place the control should be placed. In a simple layman language, if I have to give an example, so let's say we are talking about a DLP. The organization is planning to acquire a DLP. Okay, so you may get a question that in which so you may get a question in the ISSAP where they may ask you that where should be, in order to get maximum ROI, which is your return of investment, where should we exactly place the DLP? So the DLP should be placed between the entry and exit point. So anyone trying to send sensitive data outside of the organization, it should be scanned from the DLP and then only it should be allowed. So in the ISSAP, the placement of controls, where exactly you are going to place your DLP, DRM, your next generation firewall, your proxies, the place where you are going to install your web application firewall, right? The concepts of top 10 OWASP threats, okay, MITRE framework. These are all recommended and these are all testable in the exam. So that is the reason why we say that when we say know your architectural frameworks. So you need to have a good understanding of the SAPSA, TOGAF, ZACMAN. These all architectural frameworks are testable in the exam. If you are coming from a CISSP or CCSP background, I repeat, if you are coming from a CISSP and CCSP background, in CISSP, we don't discuss much on SAPSA. We only discuss about the V model, V architectural, or we only discuss about little bit of TOGAF. So what is the difference between the TOGAF and your SAPSA? TOGAF is more like an enterprise architecture, whereas your SAPSA is more security and architecture. So it's more aligned with the security requirements. So in the exam, you are going to be testable on both SAPSA, TOGAF, and ZACMAN. So you need to understand how to translate the business requirements or the business objectives into the security requirements. So now, let's say your organization is planning to acquire a firewall. So you can't go with the mindset of which is the best firewall which is available in the market. So if we go by this, say that which is the best firewall available in the market. So let's say we have a Palo Alto firewall, which is the best firewall. But does that suit our business requirements? So we have to, so when you are choosing a security control, don't go with a mindset of which is the best control which is available in the market. You have to go with a mindset of which is the control which is suits our business requirements or business objectives. So that's what is required. And this is what is also going to be testable in the real exam. This is what is going to be testable in the real examination as well. So when we are talking about ISSAP, in ISSAP, scenario-based thinking is very critical. So ISSAP is a scenario heavy. So you need to practice applying your risk assessment skills, your architectural decisions into the real world. Like how you are going to design a security in a multi-tier architecture, where exactly you are going to recommend an encryption, key management, okay? Let's say if an organization is planning to acquire, if an organization is planning to acquire, store their sensitive data in the cloud, who is going to manage the encryption keys of the sensitive data? Is the encryption keys is going to be hosted on-prem? Is the encryption keys going to be hosted in the cloud? Who is going to manage those encryption keys? Whether the customer is going to manage, whether the provider is going to manage. Let's say if we are saying that because it is very sensitive data, the encryption keys will be stored locally and it will be managed by the customer. But does that solve our purpose? No. We also need to make sure that if the encryption solution is hosted on-prem, we have to make sure that there is a constant connectivity between the application which are hosted on the cloud and the on-prem, because the entire key management solution is stored in the on-prem. So now what will happen if there is a connectivity issue, or if there is a connectivity if the connectivity is broken between the on-prem and the cloud, then the sensitive data will not be able to decrypt, because the key management solution is hosted in the on-prem environment. So you need to understand. So now when we are talking about designing a secure or multi-tier application, so let's say here when I am talking about a multi-tier applications, so here I am not, here what I am talking about is that employ multiple level of controls. So like if we talk about an application, so nowadays majority of the applications, they have a support of integrating with the MFA, multi-factor authentication. So you can actually integrate it with your Google ID, you can integrate with your Ping ID, your what do you call that, RSA secure ID as a multi-factor authentication. So just by having a username password is not enough. So is my application is able to integrate with MFA? Does my application has the capability to authenticate people via biometrics? Whatever access we are giving to individuals, are we giving the access based on least privilege? Need to know. Does the application has role-based access control? So where according to their day-to-day requirements, according to their day-to-day requirements, we are giving the roles, we are giving the rights, we are giving the privileges, right? If anyone, how does the application handle if there are any misuse cases which are deliberately introduced while the application is running? Like someone is trying to introduce a DOS attack, someone is trying to do a cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery. So how does my application react to it? How does the application manages buffer overflow attacks? Okay, so let's say, does the application have a fail-safe mechanism? So if there is any file which is trying to access any portion of the memory which is not allocated to it, does the application have a fail-safe mechanism? Like live example, in your Windows operating system, there is a fail-safe mechanism. Has everyone seen the blue screen error? So did anyone tried ever? Did anyone in this in this webinar, whoever is there, have you any time tried to analyze the error log or the memory dump? So whenever that whenever there is a blue screen error, whenever a blue screen error happens, what it basically does is it basically creates a memory dump in the C Windows folder, okay, which writes the root cause. In that memory dump, there will be the root cause, like which program, which application, which driver has caused this issue. Now, in order to read that memory dump, you need a WinDBG, WinDebug application. You need a WinDBG, which is WinDebug application. If you have that WinDebug application, you can actually open that memory dump and you can try to analyze this, that why this error has occurred. 90% of the time, I repeat, 90% of the time, the blue screen error will occur when there will be any application which is trying to address, which is trying to access a memory which is not allocated. So basically there is something called as a memory manager within the kernel of the operating system. Okay, within the kernel of the operating system, there is always something called as a memory manager. Just a second. Yeah. So what I was saying is, so this is my memory. This is my, you can say, RAM. Okay. Now let's say this is a 16 GB RAM. This is a 16 GB RAM in which we have application 1, we have application 2, and we have application 3. Now application 1, basically the memory manager which is running in the operating system, it has assigned 1 GB of memory. Okay, so there is something called as a memory address. There is something called as a memory address. Now what this memory address means is, this memory address is, this application is allowed to run only on the memory address which is being allocated. The same way application 2 is like, it is my Java which is given around, let's say, 6 GB of memory. Okay, then we have application 3. Let's say application 3 is my Oracle, which is, again, we are having 4 GB of memory. Now what is the problem? The problem is Java is a resource intensive application, correct? It's a resource intensive application. So, and the problem is, now there are two types of memory team. We have a static memory. We have a static memory and we have a dynamic memory. We have a dynamic memory. Now what happens is that applications like Java or applications like Android, they are always resource intensive applications, right? So now what happens is when because this is working on a dynamic memory and it has already consumed the allocated memory address, if there is any free memory available, it will try to read and write or access that portion of memory. So this is where excuse me, this is where in your Windows we have a fail-safe mechanism which is called as your blue screen error. So the moment there is any application tries, excuse me, any application tries to access uh, uh, any application tries to perform read and write on the memory which is not allocated to it, it immediately gives a blue screen error. So that blue screen error, what you are getting is a fail-safe mechanism. Is it clear for everyone? Is it clear for everyone? So now what is so now when we are talking about in the scenario based thinking, so recommending encryption key management, so what kind of encryption solution it is suited for the organization. So in order to recommend the encryption solution, you must also understand like what is the state of the data, whether the state of the data is whether if the data is at rest, whether the data is in use or whether the data is in motion. According to that, you will suggest the controls. Then, if you need features like single sign-on, federation, cross-domain authentication, like you are trying to integrate your SAML, security assertion markup language, where you are trying to integrate single sign-on, so that you don't have to have a pain of signing in again and again, right? So in those cases, you need to identify which kind of federation solution is best suited in the organization. Are you going to recommend SAML? Are you going to recommend OpenID? Are you going to recommend OAuth? Depending on the scenario, you have to suggest the control. So in order to recommend the control, you should be knowing the in and out. So now in the CISSP, you have heard about only SAML, right? Where in the SAML you discuss there is a user, there is an identity provider, and in the service and there is a service provider. But in the ISSAP, just by knowing an overview of SAML, it's not enough. You need to know the SAML bindings. You need to know the SAML protocols. You need to know the SAML messages. So basically, you need to know in and out of security assertion markup language. Now, when we are talking about the security models, so the same, you must have majority of these security models. You have actually, if you are coming from a CISSP background, you must have gone through this where we have a Bella Padula, which we talk about confidentiality, BIBA, which works on integrity. Again, Clark Wilson is also an integrity model. Then we have a role-based access control. We have a attribute-based access control. So you should be able to map these in the architectural decision. So you should be knowing the in and out of all these security models. Okay, and you should be so where role-based, where we can integrate role-based access control, where we can integrate architectural-based access control. What is the limitation? What is the pro and con? All these things you should be knowing, and how you are able to integrate this with the existing within the existing enterprise architect or enterprise security. That is what is going to be testable in the exam. So what are the domains? The first is we have a domain one where we have architect for governance, compliance, and risk management. So where security governance frameworks such as TOGAF, SAPSA, GRC alignment, this is testable in the exam. These are the topics. So what is the overall weightage? 19%. Then we basically have your security architectural modeling, where the weightage is 14%, where the modeling techniques, layered security, then your defense in depth, architectural views, all these are discussed. Then we have your infrastructure as security architecture, again 19% weightage. So where we discuss about the network architecture, endpoint architecture, server architecture, storage architecture, cluster architecture, all these things, we identity and access management or architecture, all these things are covered in the infrastructure security architecture. Now, if you go for the identity and access management, this is where your LDAP, your Active Directory, your role-based access control, your mandatory access control, then we basically have your NDAC, non-discretionary access control, attribute-based access control, all these are testable in the exam. Then we basically discuss about the federation. So what are the federation types which are available? Like we have a cross certification, we have a trusted third party model, right? Then we have a SAML, then we have your OpenID, OAuth, then we basically have your Kerberos authentication, all these identity as a service. So how to deal with your IDaaS solution. So let's say if the organization is planning to decommission their existing on-premises LDAP or Active Directory, then how can we migrate to an IDaaS-based solution? What are the pros and cons? All these things are covered in the identity and access management architecture. Then what we have, we basically have your architectural for application security. Now this is something which is directly in coordination with your what do you call that? Your domain 8, which is your software development security in your CISSP. This is where we discuss about the secure software architecture like the SDLC, we discuss the waterfall model, we discuss the DevOps, DevSecOps model, then we discuss the threat modeling, then we basically discuss the SAML, SAM, which is your, software. We discuss your SAM model, which is also a software development lifecycle. Then we basically discuss your waterfall model. We discuss your, what do you call that? Agile model. All these things are covered in the architectural for application security. Then finally, we have your SOC, which is your security operation architecture, where we discuss about the logging, monitoring, incident handling, and the BCP-DR planning. So here we discuss about the SIM, DLP, DRM, how to manage the incidents, how the incident and response, SOAR, business continuity, disaster recovery planning, all these. So there are 6 domains which are testable in the ISSAP. What are the materials which we can refer? Now some of the materials which we have, you can refer the official ISC Square CBK, second edition of Adam Gordon. You can refer the CISSP-ISSAP practice exams and study guides, which is available from Cybex, Thor Teachers or Boson. Along with that, you can refer the SAPSA Foundation. However, it is optional, but I do recommend this on most of my ISSAP trainings. And finally, the NIST publication 800-160 for System Security Engineering and 800-207. Along with that, referring the NIST SP 800-53. So I can write it down over here. NIST SP 800-53 and 800-57 is recommended. It is recommended. And along with that, it is also recommended to refer the CSF framework, the NIST CSF framework version 2.0. Version 2.0. These things are recommended. Along with that, it is also recommended to refer the cloud architecture security docs, which are available for AWS, Azure, GCP, which is available in their vendor portal itself. So CSA guidance, you can also refer the CSA guidance, Cloud Security Alliance guidance, that is also recommended. Now the next is, we have a ISC Square peace of mind offer. So majority of the people who are planning for this exam, so ISC Square has a peace of mind offer which is going. So now you can basically get an extra confidence boost on your exam day when you purchase your exam with the peace of mind protection. So now what is peace of mind protection? The peace of mind protection is not only available for ISSAP, it is basically available for the entire ISC Square certification programs. Okay, so what you can do is you can go to the ISC Square website, type peace of mind, or go to the Google and type ISC Square peace of mind offer, and you can purchase this with your exam voucher. So what is the benefit? Is you can register and sit for your exam. If needed, if you are unable to clear the examination, you may sit for the exam a second time at no additional cost. So this is how it works. So does it have a time frame? Yes. So basically, let's say if you purchase an ISC Square peace of mind offer today, then your first attempt of your examination, this is something which you have to give before May 30th. And if you are unable to clear, then you can give the second attempt after 1 month. After 1 month. So this is what an offer which is available from the ISC Square, which is your ISC Square peace of mind offer. So let me just show you. Let me just show you. So ISC Square. So this is how your ISC Square peace of mind. So let's say you must sit for the both exam within 180 days of peace of mind protection purchase. There is a 30-day period after your first exam before you are eligible to sit for your second. So as you can see, these are the offer which are available. So let's say if you are saying that you want to buy the ISSAP. So with peace of mind, $798. So you are paying this additional extra amount for getting the peace of mind. So within 180 days, you have to clear. So your organization is adopting an ISO IEC 27001 and requires a security architecture which is aligned with the standard. As a security architect, what should be your first step? The question is asking about the first step. Designing a SOC architecture, this should be your first step. The answer is no. Select specific encryption algorithm for each business unit. No. Procure a SIM and vulnerability scanners before you design, before you specify encryption algorithm, before you procure SIM. What you will do? You will perform a gap analysis against the standard. So the answer is B. Which of the following best describes the primary purpose of using architectural views such as logical, physical, process and security architecture modeling? Ensure the encryption is implemented at all layers, meet compliance with data protection laws, communicate different concerns to different stakeholders, eliminate all security vulnerabilities. See, one thing is we can straightforwardly eliminate the answer D, because you cannot eliminate all the security vulnerability. That is not possible. So D is gone. Now we are left with A, B, and C. Now the question is asking the primary purpose of using architectural views. Ensuring encryption is implemented at all layers, meet compliance. More than A and B, I will go with the answer C, because we need to communicate different concerns to different stakeholders. That is the primary purpose why we are using the architectural view, whether we are in the logical, physical, or process level in the security architectural modeling. In the security architectural modeling. So the answer for both the questions, So the first question answer is B, and the second question answer is C. So you are designing a hybrid cloud environment, which is the most appropriate method to ensure secure communication between the on-prem and cloud. Implement GRE tunnels. Use the IPsec VPN or AWS Direct Connect with MACsec. Use the dynamic routing without any encryption and only whitelist public IPs in the firewall. Because the question is asking for ensuring secure communication, I will go with the answer B. Use IPsec VPN or AWS Direct Connect with MACsec. So you are reviewing a cloud native application which is being developed using containers and microservices. Which architectural consideration is most critical? Integrate two-factor into the kernel, design a centralized monolithic app firewall, implement API gateways, and service mesh for security, enforce database password changes every 10 days. Because we are talking about cloud native application being developed using containers and microservices. So integrating two-factor into the kernel is straightforward gone. Designing a centralized monolithic app firewall, A and B straightforwardly eliminated. Now we are left with C and D. See, because we are talking about containers and microservices, okay, the best way is if there is containers and microservices, and since it's a cloud native application, definitely it will be having API, right? So if we are having APIs, having an API gateway with a service mesh for security is the best answer in this. That is the reason why I will go with the answer C. I will go with the answer C.